Hello my lovelies, it is time for my top 10 of 2021, so stay tuned. So I had such a hard time deciding on my top 10 this year, and I initially was able to narrow it down to 15, but I really was trying to go for Einstein movie, my tripod. I was really trying to go for the top 10. And in the end, what I came up with was top 10 plus 2 honorable mentions and a squeaky dog toy. Yes, a noisy dog that wants to play when I film. So let me start with my 2 honorable mentions. Okay, so my first honorable mention is a book that I don't currently own. It is one that I've ordered a special hardback edition of, but it hasn't arrived yet, and it'll be a while before it does. Okay, so as soon as I started filming, talking about my honorable mention, my battery died because I filmed a few videos already today. So my first honorable mention, as I said, I don't own it right now. It will be coming eventually. But that is Desperate Measures by Katee Robert. This is, it is an erotica novel for sure. It is like Disney After Dark. It is an Aladdin retelling that is BDSM, and it is Jafar and Jasmine together. And it is so hot and steamy and done so well. And there is a lot of kink involved with this. And yeah, I highly recommend it if you like that kind of thing. It is done, like, the BDSM part is done very well, where there's safe words and everybody's respected and all of that. But yeah, it's hot. It's hot. Okay. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, my other honorable mention is just completely sweet and wholesome and very different. And that is Heartstopper Volume 1 by Alice Oseman. And when I told my friend Clint that it was just an honorable mention, he about lost it. But it's so good, and it was in my top 15, and it's a 5-star read for me. But there were just other books that I put higher than this. But I did absolutely love it. It's sweet, it's a hug. It follows Charlie Spring and Nick Nelson. Charlie is an out gay boy. He's sweet, he's quiet. And then you've got Mick, who is a rugby player, and they end up sitting next to each other, and this friendship develops. It's so cute, and Charlie has fallen for Nick, and Nick is like questioning his feelings on things because he's never been interested in a boy before, and now he's interested in Charlie, and it's so freaking cute. So I had to at least mention this one. And then I'm hoping that you didn't see what was next. Okay, hold on, let me put these where you can't see them as much. Okay, so now to actually get to my top 10. And like I said, this is really hard to narrow down. Like, even once I had narrowed it down, putting these 10 in order was almost impossible. For a little while, I considered just going, okay, these are my top 10 in no particular order. And I went and watched a couple other videos that people had done of their top however many books for 2021, and every single person counted down. So I was like, okay, I need to count this down. So I tried my best to figure out this order, though really a lot of it could fluctuate up or down because these are all amazing books. Okay, so in the number 10 spot, I put Cinderella is Dead by Kalynn Bayron. And this is not necessarily a Cinderella retelling. This is set 200 years after Cinderella. And in this world, all girls, once they reach a certain age, they have to get all done up and go to this ball where if they're chosen, they have to get married off to the person that chooses them, whether they want to or not, whether they're into guys or not. And these men have complete control over these girls. And some of these men are like, you know, in their 40s, 50s, 60s even, and they're selecting a 16-year-old girl. Our main character, she is into girls. She has no interest in this. And this is all about girls taking control of their own fairy tale endings, overthrowing toxic patriarchies, and learning to walk like they bear crowns. And I just really, really loved it. In my 9th place, I actually selected one of our Season-a-thon books, and for that I selected Perfect on Paper by Sophie Gonzalez. This is super cute. It has great bi-representation in it. It has excellent conversations throughout. This is about a girl named Darcy who she runs sort of like a love advice kind of, not necessarily a column, a locker where people put letters into this abandoned locker and payment in there, and she responds to them with love advice. That is until this boy sees her getting the letters out and kind of blackmails her into helping him get his ex-girlfriend back. And this does have like the love triangle trope where she's in love with her best friend is interested in somebody else, then there's this boy and she kind of falls for him too, and he's trying to get this other girl back, and yeah, it's love triangles all over the place. But as I mentioned, this has some excellent representation for not just bi-rep, but it discusses all kinds of things like ACE, and there's a club in there that they have these great conversations in, and it also talks a lot about like internalized biphobia, and absolutely fabulous book. Number 8 on my list is actually another graphic novel. This graphic novel I read in like a 10-15 minute period, and I was laughing the entire time. It was so cute and so incredibly funny, and that was Fangs by Sarah Anderson. And it's also this stunning little graphic novel. It's hardcover, it's like a fabric material and these black sprayed edges, and this is the love story of a werewolf and a vampire and all the issues, the everyday issues that they have, being so very different like that. And it was so cute and so funny, and I highly, highly, highly recommend it. Okay, next up for number 7 on my list. This is another book that I do not own at the moment. It's been on my Amazon wish list pretty much the entire year since I've read this. It was the first book that I completed in 2021, and that was Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. I listened to the audiobook of this with my mom, and it's narrated by Matthew himself, and it's such an interesting story. It's a memoir about the green lights that happen in your life and that has happened in his life, and what he decided to do with these green lights and how he interpreted them and what he did. And he's such an interesting character and has led a very, very interesting life. And it was just a fabulous story, and I would listen to him and read. I want to look at this book too, because I want to see the pictures, because I know there are pictures throughout, and so I kind of missed out on that by listening to the audiobook, but also I love listening to him. So that one was number 7 on my list. Okay, number 6 on my list is Most Likely by Sarah Watson. This follows a group of 4 girls who, in the very beginning, it's kind of set in 2 timelines, but the majority is in the past. So we have the present, when one of these 4 girls is being inaugurated into, or being sworn in as President of the United States. And it kind of tries to hint at who it is. And then we go to the past, to their senior year. And it's all the things that they're dealing with in their senior year. And 4 very different personalities, 4 very different girls. We have Ava, CJ, Jordan, and Martha. They've been friends since kindergarten. Now they're in their senior year, facing their biggest fears about growing up and growing apart. But there's more than just finals on the horizon. One of these girls is destined to become the President of the United States. The mystery, of course, is which girl gets the gig. And they're dealing with all kinds of things. SATs, money for college. One of them is a journalist, and every year the seniors go and they carve their name into this playground equipment. And a big story throughout this is that when they go to carve their names, the playground has been fenced off and it's getting ready to be torn down, and office buildings are being put up, and they want to try to save their playground, and for memory's sake, because their parents' names are on this thing, and so many other people's parents' names are on it, and they want to be able to put their name on it and carry this tradition forward. And so that's part of the story going throughout as well. And there are things that make you think that each girl could be that girl, and we don't learn until pretty much the end of the book which one it is that ends up becoming the President of the United States. And this was just, it was so good, and I loved it. Also, there's quite a bit of disability rep in here as well. Okay, now we have moved on to my top 5. And again, these can be up or down. Even with these, it was so hard to figure this out. But in the 5th position, I put The Bromance Book Club by Lisa K. Adams. This is so freaking cute. It's an adult romance. It follows Gavin Scott, who is a second baseman for the Nashville Legends. He's a baseball player. And, well, he finds out that his wife has been faking it, and he doesn't handle it very well, and their relationship really suffers and kind of crumbles, and they're on the verge of getting a divorce when some of his buddies, baseball friends and otherwise, they tell him, okay, you're a mess, because he was just wallowing, everything was falling apart, and they're like, we're gonna help you save your marriage. We're bringing you in to the Bromance Book Club. And he's like, what is this? And the Bromance Book Club, they read romance books and use what they learn in these romance books to help repair and help fix their relationships. And it's beyond cute and sweet, and I just loved it so freaking much. And they're reading a romance book that's very much not a romance book that I would read at all. It's one of those Regency romance books in this one, and it was hilarious to see him follow the lead of these male characters in the Regency romance book. And it was fabulous, and I love it, and I highly, highly, highly recommend it. Okay, so number 4 on my list gave me all of this nostalgia. Like, oh my goodness, it brought my childhood back to me. I loved it so much, but it was done in such a way that it was like current and updated. And that was another graphic novel Jem and the Holograms, Volume 1, Showtime. I adored Jem and the Holograms as a kid. And this graphic novel series is just, it's so spectacular. And everything's done in a way that's updated without it being too far from the story. So there's cell phones, there's YouTube, things like that. And we also have a queer relationship in here as well. Jem's little sister, she's got a thing for one of the girls in the Misfits. I loved it. I loved it so much. And I don't have the second one. I actually have other ones in this series, but I don't have the second one yet, and I need to get it because this was everything I needed. Like, oh my goodness. Oh, and if you don't know what Jem and the Holograms is about, our main character, I guess you could call her our main character, Jerrica Benton and her sisters, they have a female rock band, I guess, called Jem and the Holograms. And Jerrica is this amazing singer, but she is really, like, has a lot of stage fright. And so she ends up creating this persona, Jem. Their father, when he passed away, he left this incredible AI system for them that's able to do things like holograms. And so Jem, her persona, she's a hologram created by this AI, but it's using Jerrica's voice and everything. And it can make the girls look however they want to. And Jerrica, instead of being this like kind of mousy, sweet girl, can become this vivacious, pink-haired rock star and isn't afraid to get up on stage. And then of course there's their nemesis, the Misfits. And that was really fun to see in here. So number 3 on my list was another one of our season-a-thon reads. This book crushed me. I've never ever cried so hard as I did with this book. Like it, oh my gosh, I feel myself tearing up just thinking about it. It hurt my soul so much. Let me just tell you. That's The Serpent King by Jeff Sentner. It's freaking fabulous. This is like kind of a slice of life type story. It follows Dill and his friends Travis and Lydia. They live here it was set here in Tennessee. Dill's father was a pastor and things happened, drama happened, and Dill's father is now in prison. And some people blame Dill for it, which is just absurd, but it really is just like a slice of life kind of thing, and all the stuff that they're dealing with in high school, and they're all getting ready to, I think they're in their senior year, and they're all getting ready to go and do their own things, and they're just trying to figure everything out at the same time, and you will not be prepared. As much as you think you're prepared for what's going to happen, you're just not going to be prepared. It will hurt, but in the best possible way. And you know, if you want to, I will link up above the author chat that we had with Jeff when we read this, and I'll also do the same with Perfect on Paper when we talk with Sophie Gonzalez. But this book, this is not a book that I'm going to forget, and it's also not a book that I'm gonna be able to read again for a while, just because I know, even rereading it, how much it's gonna hurt me, because I'm just, oh. So good. So if you watched my 2021 reading stats, and I was telling you like what type of books were going to be in the top 10, there was one book that I said I couldn't really, I wasn't sure how to classify it, because in that video I said I had 3 graphic novels, 1 erotica, 1 nonfiction, 4 YA, 2 adult, and 1 I don't know how to classify. And number 2 on my list is that book that I didn't know how to classify. But it again, where Jem and the Holograms was like the nostalgia for me being a kid, this one was nostalgia of young adult me, high school and early 20-year-old me, like 20s. And that was the Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the official grimoire. This book, it's fabulous. So it's Willow's grimoire, but it's done in a way that you have like, it has like journal entries and stuff, and it lets you relive these episodes in a different kind of format and a different feel. Like we have the spells, and you know what's going on with like Amy's love spell, and like I said, journal entries. You also have throughout different little blurbs or whatever that the different characters added to it. Like there's this arrow here pointing to this line, and Buffy wrote, "Ooh, does this mean I have witch cred too? What do I get? Is it like a punch card or one of those point systems?" And then like Giles wrote over here, "We're all pretty sure Willow was hallucinating here, right? All that herbal inhalation couldn't be good." Oh no, that was Anya. And then Giles wrote, "Without question." Spike here wrote, "Pretty sure it's silver." Xander wrote, "Hey, you know what? While you guys were doing your little binding spell, I was working a little magic of my own. Well, actually, this guy named Jack was working the magic, and it was less magic and more let me raise my hillbilly friends with a desiccated body part I've been carrying around on a string. But let the record show, I had my own stuff going on." And Willow said, "Now with twice as many tentacles." And there's like art throughout and stuff. And I loved it so much. I have watched all of the Buffy the Vampire Slayer episodes many, many times over the years. And I own them, and I watch them a lot. And this was such an awesome way to experience I saw all these episodes playing in my head while I was reading this. So this made it to number 2 on my list. Okay, so the book that I ended up picking as my number 1 book for the year, it kind of surprised me that it ended up being my number 1 book. I mean, I knew that I loved it, but when I was sitting here like trying to order these books, I was like, yeah, that book was so everything. It was so much fun to read, and I immediately got the next, because it's the first book in the series, I immediately got the next book and wanted to dive right into the next book, though I didn't get a chance to. I really, really wanted to. And this was a book that Marty and I read together, and we were both just like obsessed. And we were constantly talking throughout the entire book. Like we were listening. I was reading along and he was listening to the audiobook. And we were constantly like stopping and talking about things that were going on and making like predictions and all kinds of stuff. And we had just this amazing time reading this book. So it wasn't just the book itself, but it was also the experience of reading this together and how much we both enjoyed it and enjoyed the overall experience. So the book that wins my first place for all of the books that I've read in 2021 is The Savior's Champion by Jenna Morrissey. This book is freaking spectacular, and it is a thick book. It's a hefty book, but it doesn't feel like it at all. To quickly summarize, underground labyrinth tournament that's very deadly. Yeah. So I want to read the back of this because I feel like it does a much better description than I could possibly give. It says, "Today you'll face an option. Either be good and die or be dark and live. You're a good man, but you will choose the darkness." Tobias Kaya doesn't care about the Savior. He doesn't care that she's the ruler of the realm or that she purified the land. And he certainly doesn't care that she's of age to be married. But when competing for her hand proves to be his last chance to save his family, he's forced to make the savior his priority. Now Tobias is thrown into the sovereign's tournament with 19 other men, and each of them is fighting and killing for the chance to rule at the savior's side. Instantly, his world is plagued with violence, treachery, and manipulation, revealing the hidden ugliness of his proud realm. And when his circumstances seem especially dire, he stumbles into an unexpected romance, one that opens him up to unimaginable dangers and darkness. And it's, oh my gosh. There is a, like, it does mention a romance, and I personally don't think the romance is like a forefront in this. He is going in because just getting accepted into the tournament gets you a certain amount of money. And he was an art apprentice until his father and his sister were involved in an accident which killed his father and left his sister severely crippled, and she suffers and is in pain every day. And he wants to get money. He had to quit his apprenticeship, and he works hard out in fields, and he barely makes enough to put food on his family's table. And he really wants to get this money so that he can help his family and get his sister any kind of relief possible. He knows that she can't be completely fixed, but any kind of relief so that she's not hurting so much all the time. And so he begrudgingly enters this competition in order to help his family. And the longer he stays, the more money that he gets for his family. And so he's trying to go as far as he can. And if he wins, his sister can have all the help she needs. But as it mentioned, there's a lot of treachery, there's a lot of betrayal, there's a lot of killing. They have to, the tournament starts in this underground labyrinth, and then once they reach the end of that, it does go above ground and it enters into the castle. There are different things that you need, whether it's talent or brains or brawn. There are different challenges throughout that needs one of these or more of these things. And some of these challenges can be very, very deadly, but also the other contestants can be very, very deadly. And I can tell you right off the bat, in the first like hour that they spend in this underground labyrinth, people die. And there's gonna be parts that crush your heart in this book as well. But it is fast paced. They spend like 30 days in this labyrinth, and not many make it through. It's so, so, so good. I highly recommend it. And so yeah, this was my favorite book of 2021. So have you read any of these books? Let me show you. Have you read any of these books? Did you like them? Did you not? Comment down below and let me know. Have you added any of these to your TBR? Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give me a big thumbs up. If you'd like to see more videos like this, click that subscribe button down below. And until next time, remember to always be completely you. Bye!